Paul Dempsey, good to have you back to actually talk about live events, a live tour for Something for Kate. And fingers crossed, Paul. Let's hope all these dates stick to what was originally announced.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's just the nature of all live events at the moment is, you buy a ticket knowing that it's going to happen, but not necessarily on the date that was advertised. But, I guess you've still got to get your ticket if you want to be there. So, we hope that these shows happen on schedule, but they will absolutely happen even if one or two of them have to get moved. So.
Well, this is kind of special, isn't it? Because we've got a 20th anniversary of the Echolalia album in here. And looking back at what you've done over the past 20 years, every single one of these songs has been performed at some stage live, hasn't it?
Yeah, but, some not since, the Echolalia tour of 2001. So it's definitely different for us to be. I mean, we've never gone out and played an album from start to finish before, so that's different. But just to play some of these songs in the order of the record, and I'm excited. There's 4 or 5 songs there that we just virtually haven't played over the past 20 years since the original album tour. So and when you listen back to them now, they just stand out to me now in different ways. Some of them I'm kind of like, God, why didn't we play that more? That's a great song, so it's going to be fun.
Do all songs start out equal when you're making an album, and then over time, some songs tend to sprint and others tend to sort of stand still?
That's an interesting question. When you're recording an album, all the songs are definitely equal because you love them all equally, otherwise they wouldn't even be in contention for the record. So when you're recording them, you're just trying to make them, you bring the best out of them that you possibly can. But yeah, inevitably, some of them come up better in the studio than others. Some of them surprise you. Some of the ones that you expected might be, an album track or whatever, end up being something that, you're pretty sure would be a good single or whatever. But really, it's just about trying to get the best out of each individual song. And then the other thing that happens is when you do go out on tour, you kind of play them all live, and then some of them just really reveal themselves to be stronger on stage than others. Some of them stand up to live performance better than others. There's songs, for instance, the last song on Echolalia, White, is it's kind of a very ambient, moody number. So, that was always going to be a challenge to do live. We did it a few times and it was fun, but it's not the sort of song that just automatically you think of whipping out in a set. Some songs just instantly, they sound great live on stage. Other songs are a bit more, finicky or something, just harder to get them, jumping off the stage the way you want them to.
I guess Monsters is the one that really took off and remained in the live set, still to this day. But at the other end of the scale, if we're talking about sprinting, the irony being Man-Made Horse is probably one of the least played off the record.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also the one that, in recent weeks, as we've been getting ready to start rehearsing for this tour, we've all sort of said to each other at one point or another, like, Man-Made Horse, it's such a great song. Why have we not played that more? We're all really excited to play that. We're actually rehearsing tonight for the first time in weeks because we've been in lockdown, and tonight's actually the first time that we're going to really be digging into the Echolalia record, and we're all really excited just to give Man-Made Horse a run. And also, feeding the birds and hoping for something in return. That's another song that, it's probably my favourite song on the record, and we just never played it live. We don't play it live that often because it's, it's a pretty complex song. I guess it's just one that's really for the fans. It's not the kind of song we play at a festival, but, I think these shows are just going to be such hardcore Something for Kate fans that, we can really pull out some interesting tracks.
I would imagine that by the time Echolalia came along, this wouldn't have been a vinyl release back in the day, would it?
did come out on vinyl. It came out on cassette too. But so yeah, our first few records did come out. Oh yeah, all our records have come out on vinyl. It was actually the later ones that didn't, because by 2004 when the official fiction came out and 2006 Desert Lights came out, vinyl was, no one bought vinyl in those years, in the sort of noughts. Vinyl, no one bought anything. Like all that, I guess that was really the golden age of piracy. There was no music subscription services. There was no streaming services. People didn't buy vinyl or CDs. They just ripped everything off, Napster or whatever. So it's been interesting to watch this whole sort of evolution. Our first few records were on CD, vinyl, cassette, and people went out and bought whatever they wanted. And then there was a good 10-year period where sales of all music just kind of stopped, just dived, because you could just get everything for free. And we just sort of thought that's how it was going to be. I have to say I'm actually kind of amazed that they've been able to turn it around and get people subscribing to streaming services. And I just thought there was no way ever again that they would be able to convince people to pay for music. I just thought that the kind of record industry had screwed it up so badly by trying to pretend that the internet didn't exist. So it's actually pretty amazing to me that they've been able to come up with a model that is actually now seeing people pay for a streaming service or whatever, and artists are starting to make some kind of royalties again, because it just wasn't there for 10 years.
This was the third album. The previous album, Beautiful Sharks, reached number 10. So I would imagine that when you went in to start recording Echolalia, there must have been some sort of expectation of success for this record, because the success had already begun.
Yeah, I mean, it did feel like we were riding a lot of momentum. From our first EP to our first album to our second album, the trajectory was wonderful, and our shows were getting bigger, and our audience was growing, and but we still felt like a pretty obscure band. I mean, we never felt like the kind of music we were making was going to like cross over and reach a mainstream audience, because I don't know, we just thought it was too weird, or too not mainstream enough, I guess, which was not a worry at all. We weren't trying to cross over to a mainstream audience. Let me put it that way. We just wanted to make a better album than the last one. But we were confident with the batch of songs that we had. We really believed that we had the best songs that we had written yet to that point. And we were also excited to be going into the studio with Trina Shoemaker, who was a producer that, we loved the sound of the records she had made. So, yeah, there was definitely a feeling of momentum behind us, and that we had confidence in the songs we'd written. I guess there was certainly expectation from the people around us that it was going to do better. But, we've always been a very cautious... The three of us are very cautious, and, we don't take anything for granted, and we don't ever feel like we're entitled to something. Success in music or any creative industry is just so unpredictable and so fickle, and it can all change overnight. And you may think that you've got some kind of, hit record on your hands, but you don't know that. Things change, fads, trends, especially in that time as well. I mean, back then everything was quite dictated by radio programmers and stuff. So we didn't worry too much about that. We knew that if we made a good record and toured our backsides off, that that we were going to have a good time.
Well, there were two number one records that came after this one, The Official Fiction and Desert Lights. Once you reach that level, that's sort of as far as you can go. How did you want to evolve the band after achieving two number one records?
Well,
Well, you did the solo record, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, like things kind of went like this, and we had two number one records, and then I kind of had a nervous breakdown, and I kind of, I sort of lost about 2 years of my life to a bit of a mental health break, and I think, obviously that's a really personal thing, but I think I had to really just sort of reevaluate uh, what I was doing and who I was and what I was getting out of it and what I wanted from it and what it all meant, if it meant anything at all. I don't know. For me, it just that trajectory and that kind of 10 years of non-stop work and non-stop mental and physical effort. I just kind of hit a wall. So by the time I got through that, which was a very personal kind of journey, but by the time I got through the other side of that, I just wanted to make me, I just wanted to get. It was enough. It was and it is enough for me to just make music that I enjoy making and to be able to go and play shows, which I love doing. And I try to keep it real simple now, and I don't know. It's hard to explain. I feel incredibly fortunate to still be doing what I'm doing, and the band feels incredibly fortunate to do what we do, and we're just really careful about when we do it and how we do it. We don't make records every 2 years anymore. We don't tour our backsides off non-stop, as much as I'd like to, but I don't know. It's just managing the band, managing ourselves, managing our lives, and just making sure that it is all good and that we're not just doing it for the sake of it or because we feel like we have to. So I think that kind of answers the question. After that, where do you go from here? I don't know. I feel like I became a very different person. After album number five, I kind of lost my mind and started reassembling it from scratch. And I find it very difficult to relate to the person I was before and after.
But it's great to see that you have come out the other end, and there's now the family, and there is, I
Yeah,
guess, that
yeah.
sense of being able to stabilise around, having a family with Stephanie now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not like I was, some kind of, erratic, off the rails kind of character. I mean, I've always been a very, even, steady sort of person. So I was probably more surprised than anybody that I, had this sort of challenging period. But I don't know. As a songwriter, as an introspective person, you spend a lot of time thinking about a lot of things and probably thinking about a lot of things way too much. And I just got myself into a real kind of existential rut. And it's good to, you know, be out of that. It's still there, but I'm just not so afraid of it anymore.
Well, you've got the shows coming up now. Echolalia is one half of the show, the other half being the Modern Medieval album, the most recent album, which you haven't really had the chance to play very much of to date, apart from a couple of shows. Now, that's not going to be a complete album performance, is it? So you've got sort of one album to start with, a bit of a break, come back and do the new album, and I guess a couple of other known songs.
Yeah, exactly. We're not going to play the Modern Medieval, all the way through, but it'll be,
Not for 20 more years.
maybe, yeah, we'll see. I mean, I don't want to kind of keep revisiting this nostalgia train either, but yeah, I don't know. It felt right now, especially just because we hadn't been able to tour so long. It felt like this was the right time to do something like this. I don't know if it's something we'll do again, but yeah, we're definitely excited to play a chunk of the Modern Medieval. But yeah, we want to make sure we get some other stuff in there as well off the other albums, and also some different things, some things off the other albums that don't get played that much either. Because this is the kind of show I think where it's going to be the really hardcore fans. So I feel like we can get away with playing, tracks off the Official Fiction or Desert Lights that haven't been played in ages either.
Well, we look forward to seeing you back on the road, and I do enjoy the complete album shows. It's almost like a theatrical performance, isn't it?
It is. It's really different, especially if you just sort of do it from start to finish. Because if people know the track order in their heads, then they know what's coming. And yeah, as you say, that does give it more of a, there's no surprise about what the next song is or the song after that. And in fact, you know what your favourite song on the record, you know what number it is, so you know where it's going to come in the set. So that, yeah, there is more of a, it's more of a, there's no surprises, but there's a flow, and everyone's on that same flow because they know what's happening next. So yeah, it's different. We've never done it before. It's going to be an interesting experience.
Okay, Paul, good to talk to you again, and fans look forward to the shows later in the year.
Yeah, unreal. Thanks again, Paul. Cheers.